Good morning. Welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Kevin Baston, and I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry. I especially want to welcome any visitors or newcomers to our church and to call your attention to the special note for you, Welcome Guests and Newcomers, on the back side of the order of service. I would also like to welcome those of you attending online. Lyrics to hymns and all elements of the service may be found on the live stream screen, and a complete order of service, including this week's announcements, is available via the link in the Sunday morning email or on the church website. An in-person Sunday social is held immediately following the service. Now, please turn off or silence any cell phones to maintain a worshipful experience. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. This morning, we will have two within these walls. The first is from Doug and Joan Sear for the annual pledge drive, followed by Bonnie Crotty Nelson and Carol Brune for the day of service.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Doug Shear, and together with Joan, we're here to explain what really motivates us to make a financial contribution to this wonderful and awesome community church.
Good morning, everyone. When Doug told me a few weeks ago that he had agreed that we would be doing this today, I panicked. Much later, yesterday actually, I realized that I didn't need to be anxious about doing this because I know that I am among people who will accept me for who I am. After all, whoever you are welcome here isn't just a phrase from Eric Bannon's song that's used lightly here. We, the people that are this church, practice this.
Together, what we'd like to do is to spell out some of the reasons why we love and support this church, using the word cares.
C for connections and choirs. Connections that are made through working together in various groups and committees to bring relief and support to those inside our church and in our community at large. For example, our caring ministry, the worship ministry, the quilters and knitters who make quilts and shawls that provide comfort for those in need. Connections are also being made by working with other churches on various projects. These connections create our blessed community. We're so fortunate to have several different accomplished choirs and the weekly music programs that we have for our services, and also the musicals and Christmas pageants and our own Ukes.
Letter A. A is for actions. Actions in which our church expresses its core values inside and outside these walls. For example, trying to follow an environmentally friendly path in church and in our grounds, supporting immigrant justice, the IFC, many opportunities provided through Side with Love, and then also the Triangle Interfaith Reproductive Justice Coalition.
R for religious education. One of the outstanding reasons that drew us to this church was seeing how much this church values the overall welfare of our children and provides the best religious education programs with the very best leaders and volunteers ever.
E for education. Educational support that occurs through the spiritual education for adults programs and classes, our wonderful Sunday sermons, and various guest speakers.
S is for our staff, because guiding all of these caring actions are the leadership and support provided by Thom, Rachel, Marion, Kat, Glenn, Franklin, and Jen for us this year.
Your contribution to the annual pledge drive supports our wonderful staff, maintains our buildings here, enables the wide sweep of various programs that show that we truly care. We've made our pledge, and we invite you to join with us. Thanks very much.
Special Agent APD Chair Nelson. I'm Communications Specialist Brune. Agents Wilkes, King, and Hitchcock have been called away to oversee the final preparations for next Saturday's Mission Possible Day of Service. Can you give us a brief update on pledges?
Sure. Pledge operations are proceeding as scheduled. Saturday, March 2nd, will mark the end of the annual pledge drive, so there's 1 week left for you to complete your pledge forms if you haven't done so. How are the signups for the special volunteer missions going?
Several of our missions are already full and ready to deploy agents. But we have added 2 new missions, and it's not too late to sign up for making placemats for Meals on Wheels, cleaning and organizing at Charles House or on our very own church grounds, helping to build a habitat house, or helping to build flower beds at Covenant Place.
All this work will make people hungry. Have you thought about food?
No agent should go hungry. We'll start at 8:30 with a continental breakfast with music provided by the UU-Ukes. Our highest intelligence operative, Reverend Thom, will prepare us for our important work. Once morning missions have completed, we will meet here at the main station, the Jones Building, for a hot potluck lunch, more music, and sharing important intel on our missions.
Nice. Where can volunteer agents find out more?
They can check out the church website or visit our Mission Possible table after each service. Now, let's get to work.
Thank you.
So I think we should have like day of service announcements or Mission Impossible announcements like year-round, not just for these 6 weeks. And let the records show that I do not consider myself the highest intelligence operative, although I'm flattered. So this week's service, this service is about beauty, and for it, I've selected some hymns that touch on different aspects of beauty. At the end, we're going to sing a hymn that is really a lot about art and poetry and beauty that we create. We're going to sing earlier in the service a hymn about a beauty and the beauty of our spirits and our souls and showing beauty to one another. But we're going to start with a hymn about the natural beauty, the beauty of the earth, number 21 for the beauty of the earth. And I would invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together.
For Let us enter into this sacred time together with open hearts and open minds. As spring is just beginning to reveal its beauty, and we start to put aside those heavy coats and hats that may no longer be necessary, let us also put aside judgment and cynicism for a while and allow ourselves to experience the warmth of this world in new ways, with new ideas, with wonder, and with a sense of play. Let us give ourselves the gift of this precious time and allow it to fill us and sustain us for the week ahead. Come, let us worship together.
Usually we have words that we say together as the chalice is lit, but this week we're actually going to sing our chalice lighting. The words are in your order of service. They are these: "Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy." And since it's short, we're gonna sing it a couple of times, and we might do it as a round. So let us sing together our chalice lighting. Each week, we hold in our service a time for sharing the joys and the sorrows that we bring with us into this community. So during this time, if you've come with either a significant personal joy or a significant sorrow, you're invited to come forward, to place a stone in the bowl, and to share briefly your joy or your sorrow. Let us enter into this time of tenderness and trust. Are there any joys and sorrows this morning?
I'm Bill Rote, and this is my wife, Mary Beth Powell. And I just want to say, over the last several years, at this time of year, what joy our church brings to our family with the Special Buddies program. It is so wonderful. Every year we have different kids, different personalities, but it helps us. We just really appreciate it.
And we had a sister and brother couple, so it was Anna and
Guy. So they were great.
I dropped 3 stones for 2 joys and a sorrow. It's been a big month for our family. So first, my son shared a couple of weeks ago that his cousin's house had a small house fire. They live across the street from us. This is my brother-in-law's family. And they needed to move out for about 8 weeks. And that was a real, the fire was tough. And then the cousins who usually live across the street being elsewhere for a number of weeks has been hard. The joy is that they moved back in over the last week, and it's just been a delight to have my niece and nephew right across the street again, and to see my son getting to play with his cousins again. The second stone I dropped is for a sorrow. A number of weeks ago, my mother-in-law, who also lives in our neighborhood around the corner from us, was diagnosed with an early-stage breast cancer. Her surgery is this Tuesday, and so I'm holding her close in my heart, and I ask that you all hold her this week as well. The third stone was for a joy. This Friday, after many years of being a clinician, I have moved into a kind of staff scientist research role, and this Friday I will start a new role as an assistant professor of genetics and genomics, and I'm very excited about taking the next step in my career.
Hi, I'm Salem McNeve with the church's Immigrant Justice Initiative, and we have a super joy this week. Gabby and Oscar, the asylum seekers who stayed in the manse for some period, had to leave their son, Andre, their middle son, behind when they left Honduras for medical reasons. And this week, Andre arrived to join his family. And you can look at the church's Facebook page later. We'll put up a picture of the joyous reunion. So thanks for all your support.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Putnam, and I had a birthday at the beginning of the month, and it was kind of a little bit anxiety-provoking. But after several delays, we celebrated at our house last night. And I think our house hasn't had that much activity for a long time with grandkids. And I happen to raise 2 sons that are much better cooks than I am, who brought 2 daughters-in-law, Rosie and Haley, in that are good cooks and bakers. So what I asked for was that they come and make a meal and show me how. And our friend Melva joined us. So it was a wonderful gathering, and I'm feeling very grateful.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jonathan Bittner, and I have, I don't know if it's kind of like a dread and anticipation coming up. I suffer from osteoarthritis, and it's really affecting my shoulders really bad. So not this coming Friday, but the following Friday, March 8th, I'm getting cut open and getting a new shoulder installed on my right side. I'll be in an arm sling on my right arm for 6 weeks, and then after that, I'm not exactly sure what the recovery trajectory curve is actually going to look like. But suffice it to say, I've been working on my daily hygiene habits, trying to use my left hand instead of my right hand, and I've gotten pretty good at brushing my teeth with my left, but not so much other things yet. So we'll see how that goes. But that aside, the thing that I dread the most is just every day is therapy to me to sit down at the piano and play, and just not being able to do that for quite some time is dread-inducing for me. So, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Rosemary Dean, and I have joy and sorrow kind of flowing this week. I also had a lot of joy celebrating my mother-in-law, Kathy Putnam, and her beautiful light that she adds to this world. And there's been some deep sorrow around a few different things, how our trans and non-binary youth have been treated, their experiences of hatred, violence, and even death. The tragic loss of Nex Benedict this week due to that. And just the mental health crises that are just so prevalent, which has been something my family has experienced a lot of. And there was a very close family member of mine in crisis last week, and I was their person, and it happened to fall the same month that my brother was born and that he took his own life. And this service has already reminded me to focus on the light, and that's been coming up a lot for me in life. And so part of that light is a couple things. The Rainbow Collective for Change in Durham. If you haven't heard of them, look them up. RCC. They're going to hold a vigil this evening for Nex, and they're doing incredible work to protect and uplift our trans youth. And all the folks working in mental health, and I happen to love this local band who's incredible, The Collection, and this shirt, I Deserve to Be Well, is a refrain from a recent song called Medication, and that we all deserve to be well. So, thank you.
Good morning, I'm Dawn Carter. I just wanted to bookend what Bill and Mary Beth said, being on the other end of a parent of one of the special buddies, and the gratitude of the adults in this congregation to invest in our kids and the time that they spend with them, really understanding what their interests are. And I think we're on our 4th or 5th buddy so far, and we treasure those buddies, and they're buddies for life. So thank you all, those of you who participate. Those of you who don't, here's a plug to participate.
And a final stone is placed this morning for all those joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts that were not spoken. At the first service this morning, one of our members, she placed a stone for her and her wife's wedding, where they sung to each other the song that we're going to sing in a few moments, number 1053. And so I would invite you to open up your teal hymnal to number 1053, a hymn about seeing the fullness and the beauty and the sacredness of each other, of each person, how could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. As we hold the joys and the sorrows of this community in our hearts, as we give thanks for family, for connection, for healing, for care, for multi-generational community. As we hold in our hearts our worries, our struggles, health challenges, loss, pain, as we hold in our hearts this week the pain of a world where we do not recognize each other's beauty, a world in which the beauty of expecting families, the beauties of science, the beauties of nature are not respected. Let us hold in our hearts the wisdom and the courage and the resolve to see each other's beauty and to work for this beauty in the world. And while we remain seated, I invite us to sing through number 1053. We will sing it through twice. Please join with me in singing, "How Could Anyone?"
The reading this morning is from a poem entitled "The Archaic Torso of Apollo" by the poet Rainer Maria Rilke. We cannot know his legendary head with eyes like ripening fruit, and yet his torso is still suffused with brilliance from inside, like a lamp in which his gaze now turned to low, gleams in all its power. Otherwise, the curved breast could not dazzle you so, nor could a smile run through the placid hips and thighs to that dark center where procreation flared. Otherwise, this stone would seem defaced beneath the translucent cascade of the shoulders, and would not glisten like a wild beast's fur, would not, from all the borders of itself, burst like a star. For here there is no place that does not see you. You must change your life. And now it is time for our offertory. Freely have we received gifts that ministered to the needs of our body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. If you wish to donate online, please point your camera at the QR code on the back of the order of service and tap the banner that appears there. There's also information on the church's website. We will now receive the morning offering.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Glenn, for providing beautiful music to help us kind of enter into this contemplation of beauty. A couple of things. One is that I've kind of changed this up a little bit from the first service, because at the first service I've included in my text like way long quotes from philosophers about beauty, and I could just feel people kind of drifting away, and so I'm going to paraphrase those. And also at the first service, I'm just going to say they didn't laugh at my jokes, which I'm just hoping that this service you all have a better sense of humor. The sermon is really about a kind of an abstract question that is that I think is interesting, and that I think is interesting, and I want to share with you, but also leads to questions about how to live and to be in the world. And the question is, philosophically, is what is the relationship between beauty and goodness? So I want to begin this morning with an image that is provocative, you might find provocative. And as I share this image with you, I want to challenge you to respond to this image in a way that's not judgmental. I'm not interested whether you think this image is bad or good, wrong or right, whether you disagree or agree. Are you following me so far? So the question is, I'm not interested in whether you think it's wrong or right. Just consider this. So this image. Last month, environmental activists in Paris threw containers of pumpkin soup at the Mona Lisa. Last month, environmental activists splattered bright orange pumpkin soup across the walls of the Louvre and across the protective glass covering Da Vinci's famous painting. The activists then ducked the barriers and chanted slogans about climate change and food insecurity. This was not a one-time thing. In fact, over the last couple of years, environmental activists have staged protests at museums in Europe and across the globe that have targeted some of the world's most famous paintings. Van Gogh's Sunflowers was doused with tomato soup. Van Gogh's The Sower was struck with split pea soup. Van Gogh's Haystacks was smeared with mashed potatoes. Red paint was smeared on Monet's Garden of Giverny. A man glued his head to Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring. Two activists glued their hands to the ornate frame holding Raphael's Sistine Madonna. And at a museum in Australia, Andy Warhol's Campbell tomato soup cans were vandalized. The activists, though, there did not throw tomato soup at Warhol's paintings, which would have been ironic and postmodern. Instead, they scribbled on them with magic marker before gluing themselves to the paintings. I could go on and on. These protests by environmental activists targeting some of the world's most famous works of art have numbered in the dozens, in fact, in the hundreds, over the past 2 years. Let me clarify my comments just a little bit. To my knowledge, not a single work of art has been damaged by these demonstrations. The activists seem to select paintings that are well covered with protective glass, and oftentimes they just glue themselves to the museum wall next to the painting. Like I said, I'm not interested in whether you think this is right or wrong, bad or good. I'm not even all that interested in the question of whether these protests are effective or ineffective. But I want to ask the question, why art? Why art? And the answer to that question, at least here is why I think it is. It's that these works of art are beautiful. They're precious. They're one of a kind. They're irreplaceable. They're fragile. They deserve to be protected and preserved so that generations from now, these works of art may be enjoyed. And our planet, the Earth, is beautiful and precious and one of a kind and irreplaceable and fragile and deserving of protection and preservation for future generations. To quote an environmental activist who's supportive of these acts of vandalism, how do you feel when you see something beautiful and priceless apparently being destroyed before your eyes? Do you feel outraged? Good. Where is that feeling when you see the planet being destroyed? The message of these activists is urgent and imperative. You must change your life. My sermon this morning is about beauty and the power of beauty and the power of art to transform us. It's about the relationship of beauty and justice. So I return to this morning's reading, Rilke's poem, The Archaic Torso of Apollo. In this poem, the poet encounters one of those Greco-Roman sculptures, a beautiful ruin. You know the type of sculpture this is in a museum. There's that torso, and the head is gone, and the limbs are gone. And Rilke writes about seeing this sculpture and being utterly transfixed, of being utterly and completely seen by the art. He writes, "For here there is no place that does not see you." For him, it's a spiritual experience, a religious experience, a transformational experience. The art communicates an imperative to him. You must change your life. For you, it may not be a Greco-Roman torso that speaks that message to you. But you might consider, is there some beauty in the world? Whether a piece of art, or a piece of music, or a beauty found in nature, or dance, or theater, or drama. Is there some beauty that you perceive, that you enter into that spiritual experience with, and walk away having experienced it, feeling like something is demanded from you or changed in some way? It's a question to consider. Now, what exactly that change is for Rilke remains unclear. And I don't think the poet means some kind of superficial change. I don't think that Rilke views like the pecs on that archaic torso and thinks, I need to go to the gym. Oh, come on, that was my best joke. You know, it doesn't see the archaic torso and then wants to flex. Sorry. Never mind. He experiences it, describes it this way. He is being seen, fully seen. His humanity is seen. He connects with some universal human spirit that brings him into touch with the fullness of his humanity, or something like that. At least that's my interpretation of the poem. So there's actually a long and fascinating history of people who have asked the question, what is the connection, or is there any connection, between art and morality? Is there a connection between beauty and goodness? What is the relationship between ethics and aesthetics? Does art and beauty, fine art, poetry, music, theater, architecture, fashion, flower arranging, the beauty of the natural world, does art and beauty inspire us to become better people? Leo Tolstoy wrote an essay called What is Art?, where he argued that art's chief aim is to communicate emotion. And Tolstoy says that good art, as opposed to bad art, helps us to feel worthy and noble emotions. According to Tolstoy, such good art can evoke reverence for another person's dignity, reverence for every animal's life. It can also evoke the shame of violence or revenge. And it can inspire people to sacrifice themselves and to serve others freely and joyfully. More recently, English professor and essayist Elaine Scarry has written about her theory of beauty. Scary, and this is, I'm not going to do the long quote by a philosopher here. I'm going to try to paraphrase. Scary says that in our contemporary world, we're suspicious of beautiful things, and that is actually a discredit. She says that we tend to see, philosophically, we tend to see all relations in the world in terms of power, is who has power over whom and who doesn't. And so we worry about beauty as some sort of mask over these power relationships. Or she says that the perception of beauty, we treat it as a kind of objectification, as a kind of I-it relationship. And so we don't want to talk about beauty. And she actually says, Elaine Scarry says that is really unfortunate, because in her mind, beauty is deeply connected to the good and the just. She asks us to think about the word fair, which means both beautiful and just. And the origins of those words were the same. They had the same meaning. So fair skies, the beautiful skies, is related to fair play. A fair face is related to fair social, a fair social arrangement of justice. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Elaine Scarry goes on to make a few interesting comments about beauty. Here she tells about a story related by the British philosopher Iris Murdoch. One day, Iris Murdoch was in a state of preoccupation where she was worrying about her work, worrying about her status, worrying about whether her philosophy was fully appreciated. And then one day she reports seeing a bird lift off into flight. And at that moment she reports all her self-absorption falls away. That in the midst of beauty, she undergoes what she terms an unselfing. Scarry says that beauty is one of the few things in the world that gives us both pleasure as well as makes us feel not at the center of things. Beauty puts us in a state of bliss at the very moment that it tells us that we are not the center of the world. None of us are at the center of the world, Scarry writes, but each can get into the mistake of believing that we are the center of our own world. Beauty relieves us of this. It not only puts us on the sidelines, but makes us acutely happy to be there on the sidelines. Beauty de-centers us. And while that decentering is not itself justice, it prepares us for doing that work in the world, she writes. Scarry also says that beauty gives to us a sense of wanting to care, to preserve, to protect. She says that beauty causes us to make a pact with aliveness, a pact with aliveness. She writes that if a painting is stolen from a museum, we, and I mean we, the people across the whole earth, have a concern for its well-being, as if it were an alive thing. So she says that beauty, in the perception of beauty, actually teaches us in the ways of justice and teaches us in the way of caring. And yet this connection between beauty and justice, beauty and goodness, ethics and aesthetics, can actually be kind of tenuous in some ways. At least it's not guaranteed. Consider this thought experiment. I have no idea if Vladimir Putin likes art. But just let's assume for the sake of argument that he really does. He likes ballet. Would going to the ballet more often make him less likely to make war? Or if the ballet dancers were better in some way, would that, there is not this one-to-one correlation between beauty and ethics. This logic breaks down. If art were guaranteed to make us better, then we could just go to the museum more often. And that would, the people who go to the most museums or who listen to the most music would be the best people. And that's not, that's problematic. And yet, on the other hand, we know that authoritarian regimes, repressive governments, and religious fundamentalists all attempt to crack down on artists and artistic expression. And that's one of the first things. That's one of the first casualties in these crackdowns. They seek to ban, censor, defund, and limit artistic expression. And they do this, I think, not just because art expresses ideas that they find challenging to their authority. They do this because I think they know that art is powerful and transformative and can inspire people to change and to love. In our gray hymnal, there is a section, we're going to sing out of it in a minute. There's a section that's called Beauty, Truth, and Goodness. And I had somebody suggest to me, well, maybe there were just not very many hymns about beauty, not very many hymns about truth, and not very many hymns about goodness, and so they just stuck them all together under one, no, but it's actually beauty, truth, and goodness, as if there is a connection between beauty and truth, between beauty and goodness, between beauty and fairness. I'm not sure that any of the philosophers have the answer to how that connection actually works. At least I don't pretend to understand any philosopher who argues that. But at the same time, there is this other thing that I do suspect, which is that if we take the time to notice beauty, to observe beauty, to open ourselves to beauty, whether that is art or music or craft or nature or the skies or the flowers or one another, our beautiful faces and our beautiful souls, that we might be transformed by beauty. And it'll be up to each of us to answer the question of how it might change our lives. So let us end this morning with a hymn particularly about the types of beauty that human beings create. It's number 326 from the section Beauty, Truth, and Goodness. Let all the beauty we have known please rise and join us in singing.
Please remain standing in body or in spirit. The words for extinguishing the chalice are in your order of service. Please join me if you wish to do so. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Let's give thanks to everyone who made this morning's service so beautiful. And now please join us in singing Shalom, The words are in your order of service. As you are comfortable, please either hold hands with the person next to you or cross your arms over your chest.